our session today on best practices for virtual recruiting. My name is Brandy Derwin, and I am the Assistant Director for the SFA Center for Career and Professional Development, working primarily with employer relations. And I'm going to let Jamie go ahead and introduce herself.
I'm Jamie Bolden. I'm the director here in the Center for Career and Professional Development, and wanted to just welcome you all to our morning. If you're just joining us, or thanks for tuning in for those of y'all who've been with us for a couple of sessions, but we're excited to provide these training opportunities for you all to assist in your recruiting efforts.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk during this session on the best practices for virtual recruiting. So, for a lot of us, we switched to virtual recruiting last spring. And for most of us, that was what we did in the fall 2020 was virtual recruiting. And so I'd like to go ahead and kind of offer you some tips that we have collected over the past few months on what employers may want to do whenever they are considering how to really go about this virtual recruiting effectively. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If you'll give me just a second, let me get this presentation going. All right, great. So for this, again, my name is Brandy Derwin. I'm the assistant director, and I do work primarily with employer relations. So I do a lot of reading and a lot of webinar watching and conversations with peers on figuring out, what is the best way that we can support employers as they are trying to fill talent or seek talent to fill positions at their organization. So, of course, here at Stephen F. Austin State University, we are considered a handshake school. So we utilize Handshake as our online career management platform. Of course, in order to sign up for today's sessions, you already have a Handshake account. But for those of you that are not watching this session live, know that Handshake, of course, is a platform that you as an employer can join for free to recruit talent and to post your positions, as well as sign up for expos, etc. So that's a brief overview of our university and how we kind of facilitate employer relations, again, is directly through the Handshake platform. So the first thing that we encourage you to do when you're starting to think about doing virtual recruiting is for you to really revisit your brand as an employer. So of course, 9 out of 10 job seekers are going to be Googling y'all, right? Like they're going to pull up your website and they're going to see what you have available. And so when we think about what your brand looks like, we encourage you to think about all of these different areas. So when we think about, where people might go to find out information about your organization. First and foremost, we encourage you to look at your company website. Do you have a website that is mobile friendly? Do you have your careers or your job postings or your internship postings listed on your website in a place that's easy for folks to find and apply for? When it comes to your About Us section, when's the last time that was updated? Is your mission clear for the candidate to review and to start, really making a connection from? After you kind of comb through your entire website, I would encourage you to start looking at your social media sites and your social media presence. These sources should all look and feel very similar. They should feel like they're related to each other, right? So if you have a company logo on your company website, then perhaps you should have that same company logo on your social media sites as well. Again, it just kind of looks at that overall brand to make sure that your end user is seeing exactly the message that you want them to be able to see. So I encourage you for your social media, Google your company name and see what comes up. All right. So if you're pouring a lot of effort into your Facebook page, but that doesn't show up in that Google search, you may want to start revisiting that and see how can you start to really make your brand be something that pops up. All right. So in addition to your company website and your social media, we would of course encourage you to utilize LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a really great resource for you as an employer to talk about what you have going on at your organization, as well as post jobs for candidates globally to apply for. Okay, so LinkedIn is a really great resource for that. You as an individual may be connected with your company on LinkedIn, but who manages your actual LinkedIn company page, right? So making sure sure that when you're going in on LinkedIn and you're searching for your company, what you're seeing on that profile is exactly what you're seeing on your website, your company website, and your other social media resources. Glassdoor and Google reviews are definitely something that candidates are looking at. So a lot of candidates will go on Glassdoor to hear about other employees' experiences at your organization. So have you taken the time to actually pause and look at that to see what's going on? You know, reading those reviews, whether they be good or whether they are bad, can be very eye-opening for management at an organization to see how we need to modify our structures that we have in place to make sure that we're supporting our employees the best way that we can. Also, those Google reviews typically come from customers of yours. And so reviewing those Google reviews, again, that's what most job seekers are going to be able to see online. And so if your company has terrible Google reviews or terrible Glassdoor reviews, it's something for you to at least be aware of, even if you can't manage it yourself. Okay. So the next thing I would encourage you to look at and do a really good comb over is going to be your actual HR website or your careers page. You know, making sure that that is an easy thing for people to view and apply, especially from their phone when they're doing research, you know, while they're walking around or while they're walking to class. Having an HR website that is very clear as far as job postings that you have available, how your internships, how people go about applying for your internships, all of that just needs to be very clear and very easy, and just consistent across all these different platforms. And then lastly, I encourage you to look at your Handshake profile. If you're a company that has an account created on Handshake, making sure that you go through and actually review your company profile to make sure that it's as complete as you can make it. The more information that's out there, the branding images that are out there, it's just can create a really consistent brand for your company so that when I'm looking and doing my research as a job seeker, I'm seeing consistent messages, which again helps me as a candidate figure out if this is going to be the best route for me to go. All right. So the next thing that we encourage you to think about is to figure out who your core schools are going to be. All right. So when we think about who you want to recruit at for your core schools, making sure that you kind of pause and decide which universities are the key universities that I tend to pull most of my talent from. All right. So of course, whenever you're thinking about your core schools, know that you get a really great diverse talent pipeline when it comes to universities that you might be recruiting at. So whenever you're in Handshake, you can actually go in and connect with additional universities that maybe when you first set up your Handshake account, that university wasn't a part of Handshake just yet. And so by regularly going in and looking at the schools that you are looking beyond your core schools that you have traditionally recruited at, it could be a really great talent pipeline for your organization in the future. Of course, here at Stephen F. Austin State University, we do offer a great resource called JackFacts. So JackFacts, if you just go online and Google that, Jack or SFA JackFacts, it'll give you a resource where you can select head count and you can start to look at the ethnic makeup of Stephen F. Austin State University, as well as our gender makeup, and our where our students are coming from in the state of Texas or beyond. So it's a great way for you as a recruiter just to get a nice little snapshot of what Stephen F. Austin State University has to offer you by way of talent and by way of where these candidates might actually end up being willing to either move back to or relocate to once they graduate or as they complete their internship. With that, you know, Handshake again is a really great resource for you to utilize. And again, you can go into Handshake and you can expand your school network. So by going in and looking for other universities that maybe traditionally you haven't recruited at in the past, you can go in and sort by location and a mile radius. So if you wanted to search for a certain number of universities that are a certain number of miles away from a particular location, you can do that. And it may surprise you to see how many different universities are in our area or in our own backyard that we just maybe never thought of as an opportunity for us to source talent from. So again, doing a quick reflection on the schools that you typically recruit from could give you a really great new look on how you may want to recruit virtually. So the next things that we encourage you to think about is being proactive. So, before COVID and before everything went virtual for the most part, a lot of times folks would come to campus and they would engage with talent, and that would be the best way for them to fill their positions. But with everything being virtual now, or with a lot of things being virtual now, sometimes as a recruiter, you have to be a little bit more proactive. Typically spending that time in person at a career expo can now be spent, strategically communicating with potential candidates and doing outreach, intentional strategic outreach in order to fill positions. So, the first thing that I want to talk about is using the filters within Handshake. So when we think about Handshake, and I'm actually going to go ahead and pull up that website now, so you should see the Handshake platform here. In Handshake, you can search students. Now, as a recruiter, you most likely are connected with several schools, several universities, and within each of those universities, you've got thousands of students to kind of comb through. So you may be looking at this saying, oh my goodness, there are so many students for me to connect with. Well, this is where coming in and looking at your schools or your core schools will be helpful for you. So as an example, I'm going to go ahead and search Stephen F. Austin State University, and that's going to really tighten up the number of public profiles that are available for you to review. All right. From here, know that you can go in and search and filter down as tight as you would like to search. I like for folks to keep in mind, though, the tighter you filter down, yes, the fewer number of results that occur. However, updating a student's profile is absolutely the student's responsibility. And so the tighter you go in and kind of sort and filter these candidates down, some candidates may not regularly jump in to update their Handshake profile, or they may not have thought about it in the last 30 days or 90 days. And so I encourage you to kind of just be mindful of what key areas you're wanting to recruit for and how tight you make those filters. So on here, if you are looking for education, here at Stephen F. Austin State University, our College of Education, our teachers are actually majoring in interdisciplinary studies. And so, sometimes at universities, we call things differently, even though they're getting the same end result. So just being mindful of how you want to kind of source this down is something we encourage to think about. From here, you'll see that you're able to kind of see a really quick snapshot of these students and if they have their profile visible to employers. All right. So let's say that I am interested in a candidate. I can click on their profile, and this is completely at random. And so, I have a little message there that says that person has actually been archived. So let me see if I can select another person here. I'm going to go ahead and grab maybe a junior that I can look at. And let's see. All right, so this candidate has a profile created. They don't have a ton of information on their profile, but it's maybe something that I'm interested in considering. You can go in and you can send them a message. Now, as a recruiter and as a core school, not a premier school with Handshake, or premier employer with Handshake, you get 100 you can message up to 100 students in a recruiting season. So again, I encourage you to be mindful and strategic when you're going in and doing these messages, because once you've spent your 100, and that's for your entire collection of universities that you're recruiting at, not just one school, your entire collection, you'll have to wait until that next recruiting season starts. So if you hover over this little information thing, you'll see that the recruiting season started January 1st and it will end on June 30th. All right, so just being mindful in how you spend those 100 is something I'm going to encourage you to do. All right. However, when we think about ways that you can get creative, using the filters in Handshake, but also coupling that with LinkedIn. So we are going to be doing another session on how to get the most out of Handshake and LinkedIn, where I'll spend a lot of time going through using these two resources together. But I do want to mention that if you find a candidate on Handshake that you're interested in connecting with, know that you can jump into your LinkedIn and search for them as well. Of course, LinkedIn is one of those things that not all people have accounts on, and so you may have to get a little creative on how you make sure that you identify the correct candidate. All right. So again, you just got to kind of be a researcher here and see if you can find these people on LinkedIn as well. All right. So that's how you can utilize both Handshake and LinkedIn in your search as you're trying to contact talent directly. So the next thing that we would encourage you to think about when it comes to virtual recruiting is your early talent and how you might be restructuring that. So, a lot of times employers are interested in coming on campus and engaging in person. But whenever you're thinking about building those relationships, you may have to do those through virtual events now, through working with faculty members, through working with clubs and organizations, so that you can indeed start to build those relationships. And then once you're able to come back on campus, which know that for spring 2021, that is an option. That is, yes, an option here at Stephen F. Austin State University. You can register for those events in Handshake under career fairs. Know that building those relationships may enhance your chance whenever you come back on campus to recruit, whether that be this semester or next. Also, of course, taking the time to actually message those individuals directly. If you can go in and message them through Handshake, or if you can connect with them on LinkedIn, again, you may just have to be the person that's a little bit more proactive in connecting with candidates and connecting with talent. Next, we have heard some recruiters getting, creative in sending company branded items to potential candidates. So let's say that you engage with a group of students at a virtual career fair or at a virtual event, collecting their contact information and actually mailing them a little goodie bag that has some company branded items in there. Everyone loves to get something in the mail. I think it makes everybody a little excited. And so being connected with an employer that way is something that it's just a little special touch that you might be able to kind of do. Some items that you may want to consider, of course, journals or hand sanitizer that's branded with your company. Of course, t-shirts are a great way for you to not only market and advertise your company, but students wear them. They wear them around campus. And so again, it's a great way for you to really get your company name out there and start to increase that brand in this virtual time. And then lastly, when you're creating those virtual events, make sure that they're dynamic, using great graphics, making sure that the people that you have doing these virtual events are those that can kind of get the energy going and keep people engaged, and aren't just regurgitating information. Sometimes I feel like we sit through virtual sessions and it almost feels robotic. And, before that was kind of the norm with virtual events, but now, that we're doing it so often, having a dynamic speaker that can engage with groups and keep them tuned into what you're trying to sell may not be you. It may be another person at your organization, and that's okay. Again, you're looking to build that early talent and to get them on board early. All right. So when we think about how we're connecting, just making sure that your events are nice and dynamic and engaging. So when we're shifting our events from face-to-face to virtual, now is the time to get creative. I like to say, especially nowadays, nothing's off the table, right? So when we're thinking about different things, different experiences, different opportunities that you as an employer may want to try at a university or virtually, let's have a conversation about that. I think we're all in a time right now of constantly creative thinking. And so, like I said, nothing is off the table for us to consider doing and trying to get our students and candidates engaged with you and your company. All right. So here's a few ideas that the Career Center has kind of come up with. as an employer, you're considered an expert in a particular field or in a particular area. And so having expert panels, where you have different people from your organization perhaps talk about, what they do, or if they could turn back the hands of time, how they would have gone about their job search a little bit differently, or how in COVID times they can more effectively go through their job search. Having that message come directly from the employer, it falls so differently with students. Here in the Career Center, we coach the same method, we coach the same model to get them ready for y'all. But when the conversation actually comes directly from the recruiter, it just sounds totally different, and they hear it so differently. So having the idea of doing an expert or a virtual expert panel is something the Career Center would absolutely be happy to coordinate with you. Also doing what we call AMA sessions, or Ask Me Anything sessions. So sometimes students have no idea what to ask or what to do truly whenever they're doing these virtual events. They are expecting you to just give them information and they say, okay, great, thanks. So sometimes coming with a couple of backup questions just to keep the conversation alive and to keep the conversation going can really help make sure that you're answering as many questions as you can for the job seeker as they're preparing for their virtual job search when it comes, or when it at your organization. Also, I love the idea of doing a virtual tour of your facility. So, having your devices set up with a front-facing camera and literally walking through your organization with using Zoom or Google Meet or whatever it is, just to give a tour of what it's like to be at your organization. Oftentimes we get that first taste whenever we come in for an interview, but even those first round interviews are being conducted virtually now. And so really being mindful of offering a virtual tour. When you choose to do that, make sure that your device is nice and charged up, because it's kind of difficult when that Zoom connection falls and you're trying to get reconnected. But know that that's a really great way for you to really showcase your organization and what it might be like to work there one day. Also, if you have any alumni that are currently working for your organization, when other students see somebody that went to their university working at a company and being super successful, it tends to catch their attention and to capture their mind. So if you have any alumni that can say, hey, I went to school at, as an example, Stephen F. Austin State University, and this is how I learned of this company, and this is how I got my job here, and this is what I do in my job, and this is how my coursework helped me or is helping me in my job right now. Having that alumni kind of share their story is a great way for you to connect with current students at a university, and especially at Stephen F. Austin State University. So one more tip that we encourage you to do is to stay connected with your university partners. So know that engagement for us has shifted drastically too. We were very used to hosting these large events, and the buzz was in the room and everybody was very excited, and we got to see the successes happening right in front of us. But now with everything being done virtual, we can see that events are taking place and we can see that students are registering for them and connecting with recruiters. But we want to make sure that you as a recruiter are taken care of and that you feel supported during this virtual time. So make sure that you stay in regular contact with your point of contact at each university, just to let them know what you're doing and how you're moving forward with recruiting in general at your company, because your company may have halted all in-person travel, and you're only doing things virtually. That's good for us to know, so that we know when we're working with faculty and we know when we're working with students how we can best get them over to you, okay? Also, please post your virtual events in the Handshake platform. That is the best way for us to encourage students to attend, is by having that event posted within Handshake. Here at SFA, we have almost 12,000 students, and then all of our alumni also have access to Handshake. And so by posting your virtual event, you are really reaching a large group of students that might be interested in tuning in for your virtual event. So just be mindful, if you are hosting virtual events, make sure that you are posting them on Handshake for students to see. And of course, if you have any other ideas, let's brainstorm. Again, creativity is where we're at right now. So if you have any fun ideas that you may feel like they're off the wall, let's talk about it. Let's see how we can make that happen. okay? So feel free to reach out to us here at SFA to see how we can meet those needs for you. I did want to chat briefly about the virtual career expos that are taking place through Handshake. So here at Stephen F. Austin State University, we utilize the Handshake platform to host all of our virtual events, all right? So as an employer, you can register for those events right now. So if you click, if you're logged into Handshake and on the left-hand side, you click fairs, you can search at Stephen F. Austin State University what we have available right now. We would encourage you to register early so that we can start advertising this for students, so they can sign up for either group sessions or 10-minute one-on-one sessions. Okay, some things to consider when you have when you're signed up for a virtual expo. Know that you control your schedule 100% as the recruiter. So you go in and you let students know when you are available to chat. You also go in and remove yourself from your availability if you're unable to chat. Okay, if you don't go in and adjust your availability, as a student, it looks like you're available for anything. And so I can go in and sign up for any time slot. Know that you as an employer must create your schedule before a student can sign up for anything, okay? So a student can see that you're registered, but they cannot sign up to talk with you until you get your schedule set. So get that set as quickly as you can within Handshake so students can go ahead and start to sign up for that, okay? I do encourage you also to keep in mind there are some changes that have taken place on Handshake. So if you have a particular platform that you prefer to use, like Zoom or Google Meets or whatever, know that you can input your own custom link into your platform. But know that students are going to get that link from Handshake. So it just depends on kind of what you want to do there. Also know that even once your group session has started, students can still join those group sessions. So know that if you're 10 minutes into your group session, they may be able to jump in and join in on your group session later on, okay? Handshake is offering some really great tutorials for you as an employer. If that's something you're interested in, I encourage you to go to the Help Center on Handshake's platform to get a little bit more information, all right? And then the last virtual experience that I'm going to encourage y'all to think about are going to be what we call micro internships. So micro internships are short project-based internship experiences that you as an employer can create for a student. These may be a 6-week opportunity, a 4-week opportunity, or a 2-week opportunity, depending on the experience you have. But know that those are a great way for students to still gain experience, both in the short term and in the long term. So if doing a micro internship is something that you're interested in doing, I would love to continue that conversation with you to see how we can help you meet those needs. All right, so in closing, quick recap of how you can work on those best practices for virtual recruiting. Of course, reevaluate your brand and what people are seeing online about you. Make sure that you are connected online. Make sure that you're being creative right now. Again, nothing is off the table, and really being mindful of all of the ways that you can recruit. I know here at SFA, we are excited about holding those conversations with you as well. Stay engaged. So making sure that you are connecting with candidates and you're being the proactive person that is making sure that they are applying for your positions and making sure they're doing all of the steps necessary for them to get on board and apply. And then lastly, participating in a virtual expo. Of course, here at SFA, we are hosting several opportunities for you to engage with students virtually as well as in person. So you can check out those events in Handshake under the Fair section. And if your company's interested, setting up one of those micro internships so that, again, students can still gain experience and still get connected and engage with you as a recruiter. So in closing, that is our tips on how you can really brush up on your virtual recruiting tactics in this time. So I am going to go ahead and pause for any questions that you may have. So feel free to unmute yourself, and thank y'all so much for tuning in.
So Brandy, this is Jack. For micro internship, do we need to post that on the Handshake, or we can just send it to you?
Yes, so it would still need to be posted on Handshake. That way students, when we send it out to students, they have that equitable access to that micro internship.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Brandy. This is Edna Gandy. I have a question on the scheduling for the virtual career fairs through Handshake.
Okay.
How do I edit those times or how do I access those?
Excellent. So what I'm going to do real quick, let me go ahead and send you the help tool on that. So are you logged into Handshake right now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so in the upper right-hand corner, there should be a little help menu, and drop down to where it says Help Center. And my page is loading. If you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see a section that says Education Partners, Employer, Student, Alumni. Go ahead and click on Employer. That's what you are. And on the left-hand side, give me just a moment, you're going to click where it says Events and Career Fairs. Now this is going to drop down another huge bundle for you. And so when you are looking at editing your schedule, give me just a moment. Well, yes, okay. So under M, so it appears, oh no, they're not even alphabetical. I'm so sorry. Almost toward the bottom, you'll see where it says managing schedules for virtual fairs. I'll throw this into the chat box for you as well, but know that that option is there for you. And I'll put this in here for everyone to see and access there. But this is going to show you, all of the different ways that you can go in and edit your schedule and make it visible. Here at SFA for this spring, we are hosting our expos from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. So like I said, if you don't go in and manage your schedule, you may have a lot of people signing up, which is excellent. We just wanted to make sure that we provide students lots of opportunity to engage with employers throughout the day.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Well, I am going to go ahead and go offline for just a minute. Our next session will start at 11:30, and we're going to be talking about how you can maximize using Handshake and LinkedIn. So we'll be doing a really quick walkthrough on that. I don't see that session lasting the entire time, but I do want to show y'all how I've been able to kind of couple those two together just to get some traction. All right, so thank y'all so much, and we'll tune back in just a minute.